Christmas. Okay, let's pick up where we left off last. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. As a matter of fact, I'm going to spend maybe 2 minutes on this. We talked about the rotation up, down, and rotation around. But in the way that I see this, also, the second interpretation is that you take a person's body, here, arms, blah, 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 and head, and then you got here, here. And that the concept is that we move from a solid foundation, solid base, rotating around, and we have a very light touch, very soft and light touch, but force comes from force, and effectiveness comes from the lower body and from the legs, and that's one of the things that I believe that we should be aiming for in terms of development, and that's all I want to say about that, unless anyone else wants to say anything. Okay, so that's that part. Here is the big topic for discussion today. When O-sensei was teaching, he did not have any names for any techniques, or very few names for techniques. It was when his son came in and started the organizational process, he would start naming things and had names for techniques, and we'd call them whatever we call them. But I started thinking about this, and one of the questions that I've had for years is, what are some of these names? And one of them that stands out is Kokyanage. I look at that and I say, what is Kokyanage? Like I've asked, what is Aikido? Okay, that's a different story. I'm not going to go into that story right now. So what is Kokyanage? And we sort of, at least for me, I sort of say, okay, I see a technique, and that looks like a Kokyanage. Okay, but how is it different from anything else? Okay, so I started thinking about it, and I started looking at it, started reading about it, and I don't speak Japanese, I don't read Japanese, I don't, understand Japanese. But there are certain things that I kind of understand, and I sort of piece this together, and I come from some sources. One of the sources that I've looked at is understanding that O-sensei examined ancient classics. And what were those classics? Well, obviously it was an encyclopedia of Aikido that he looked at, I'm only kidding. So he looked at a number of different sources, and they had a certain cosmology. What is the outlook? And you can sit cross-legged, don't be uncomfortable. So one of the sources that we look at here is Taoism. And you'll see trigrams, you'll see this, okay? And you look at that, and anybody that knows a little bit about this is the creative, this is receptive, or we call it positive and negative and things of that sort. And just so you know, is that very often you'll see that this is on top and this one's on bottom, but the Japanese and Chinese put this on the bottom because it's as if they're standing on a hill or a mountain. And so when you're standing there, the sun is shining down, you're on the bright side of the mountain, and then you have the negative going the other way. I mean, that's just what they do. So it's from this perspective. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Kokyanage. Well, I'll show you. If this is north, this is usually north, and this is south. So now what we're going to have is, you're going to have east, and you're going to have west. And on the east side, I'm not going to bother doing the diagram itself, but what you have here is the symbol for fire, and then on the other side here, you're going to have water. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, the idea of fire and water are symbolic. And the symbol here is fire is that which expands. It goes out, it goes outward. That's the concept. Water is really interesting because even though we think water is the opposite of fire, it also has the sense of being like a vacuum. It has a sense of depth. It like disappears. Like the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and it sets, depending upon where you are, it could be setting into the water. But that feeling of like a suction, a vacuum where things just disappear. That's what we're going to get into Kokunage in just a minute. But that's the concept here. It's not the literal image, as it were. So, what does this have to do with anything? My understanding is that you have that this is ka and this is me. Combine the two, ka, me, you get kame. Okay, that's an understanding. And O-sensei talked about that. He also talked about just the opposite, which was water and fire. Instead of fire and water, water and fire. And he called that, or it's called Iki, I-K-I. But it's also written, from what I understand, the same way that Kokyu is written. Okay? So this is Iki equals Kokyu. And now you have some framework for thinking, well, now we're talking about what is this? What is it that we're talking about here for Kokunage? Okay, good question. I'm glad you asked that question. Okay, so Joel, come on up for a second. One of the things that we do in Kokunage is that I see, and it's not just Kokunage, and I don't want to deal with, because to me, Kokunage is many different things. And what we call certain techniques, even Kotegaeshi, to me is a Kokunage. And it is, we see Sankyo. To me, I see Kokunage. Why do I see that? Because one of the things that we talk about here is that if we do a Kotegaeshi, as an example, very often we will have, especially with beginners, an image that you take the wrist to this side. This wrist, and then you're going to now twist it, because that's what it's called, and we're going to now break or smash at the break point here, and that is going to drive the person down to the ground, okay? I see it differently. What I see is that I want to, as I explained the other day, is that I want to induce rotation. And what does that mean? I want to now take the center of the palm, and that is going to be my center point for rotation, like so. Okay? It's not break at the wrist, but rather rotation around this center point. And what is the consequence of that? Well, take a look at what happens to him when I'm doing that rotation. Right? He's moving. So now all of a sudden, there's kazushi happening as a result of this rotational movement. So how do we make that happen? Well, we don't make that happen by taking the force of the hand and driving it down onto the top, but rather have a combination. What's the combination? Well, it's yin and yang, meaning that this part is going forward on top, this part is coming back, like so. Now, how does that happen? Well, we could use our arms and our hands to do that, and we use strength. But I don't prefer to do that. I prefer to use my center or my back. And so what I'm doing here is using my arms as a connector and bringing this back this way and this going forward. And there's now the concept of Kokyu. This doesn't mean breath. I'm not right? That's not what's happening, but it's using the idea of positive energy, if you will, okay, fire, and this dropping, this vacuum coming back this way. So that's where we're coming with strength. We see that in the regular Kokyunage techniques, but I want to focus on this technique right now. So I'd like you to work on this, just work on a Kotegaeshi utilizing this kind of principle. Okay? Try it.
Your concept is pretty much the same as we think about Kotegaeshi as we talked about. It's return. It's giving back. It's a return. It's not a cranking. Kaishi means to return, to give back. Maki, kaishi, etc. Right? You give it back.
Correct.
You take the energy and you give it back.
If you want to think of it that way, I don't think about taking anything.
No, receiving. Receive and return. Receive and return.
Yeah, you can do
right?
that. I mean,
and you're doing that. You did that here.
Right. Here.
There you received it. There you returned.
Exactly.
Okay.
I call it just inducing rotation.
Yeah.
That's my concept always.
Okay.
Okay? Let's move on to the next idea. Okay. You know what, Joe? Let's get you back up here. Let's go. Okay. So my theory, my operational theory, is that almost everything is Kokyunage. Okay? We call it different stuff, different things, because we see it in different ways, and we call it immobilization techniques, we call it whatever. Let's do Nikkyo now. Okay? Here's a favorite one of someone that loves to crank the wrist. Okay? So what do we have? We typically will have the situation come in here. Okay? And what do we see normally? So we're going to come down, we're going to crank on that wrist, or yank down, or whatever it is that they're trained to do. Okay? So that's going to be happening. But again, I want to work from the back, that connection. And I also want to work on that rotation point. So here's the same rotation point, but on the opposite side of the hand. Kotegaeshi is the opposite of Nikkyo, right? So here, instead of here, we're thinking here. This rotation now is here, comes down like this goes back up. Rotation, okay? So now what happens is that I'm set up here. The rotation is going to come in from my back, okay, from my legs, and not from cranking down at the hand, okay? So from here, that's it. That's all you need. You don't need to be cranking down like a mad person, okay? Here, here. That's it. We don't need pain. It's just dynamics. Okay? So now try Nikkyo. Okay?
Go.
Yes.
You were stuck in Nikkyo, right?
Yes.
Okay? So, and I had you move your hips back and away because that was a negative energy, but that made it actually happen because you were fighting that way, okay? But you can go a different way. So here, as you're doing this, your shoulder, if you will, is going this direction. And this part is going back this way. Okay? It's a rough idea. Okay?
Thank you. Wow.
Okay, so we've done Kotegaeshi, we have done Nikkyo. Let's do Sankyo. So Sankyo is something that we all know and love, and there are different ways of approaching Sankyo, which is that I normally will show here the forearm is down this way, and we rotate around like so, and then we revolve around this way, right? And at the same time we do that, the pinky comes up into the armpit, okay? That's what I normally show, but not anymore. What I want to show at this point is, again, the arms are connectors. They're not power generators, okay? From here, here. I want to now move like so. And this movement is not just this attacking motion this way, but it's also from behind, pulling, okay? So you got two things going on. It's the yin and the yang, yin and yang. And so you have fire and water. So you have this fire, and at the same time, you got this movement coming backwards that way. And that's all you have to do. That's it. Now, can you do other things? Yeah, you can do other things, but this is the way that I prefer to do it. So in here, here, that's it. Okay? Just try that, please. Thank you.
When you're applying,
Yes.
This is her. Then you have a third, which says, I mean, it's rise, and squeeze, turn apart, so right? And this is her, what you know, this is all things, right?
that's gonna take some practice. I think I need to stick the tassels on them. So I can see if I can.
Feel that you don't want a little bit here.
You like my hand power? You hear it?
Greg, I'm not worried about the other. I want to make this plate, right? I mean, that's. It's like they take the chain, right, just twist it.
Now that we're talking about everything else being Kokunage, well, let's look at Kokunage for a second. Okay, so in here, our basic Kokunage, as you know, very often people will set in around here, pull somebody around, and then come in and smash down to the ground, like so, in one form or another. So, what I'm suggesting, again, is that your center, your hips, are going to, at this point, are going to be turning, and this motion, this positive motion, is going to be offset or complemented with the going in the opposite direction. We had a situation with you, right? Come on up for a second. Do that. We did a technique the other night, which was, I think it was a Shomanuchi, okay, and your point, we're doing Tenkan, you came in here, okay? And so you're getting stuck at this point, trying to get the arm down and then around, correct? Is that what happens? Okay, and what did I say to do?
Stand out.
And step back that way. So from here, I wanted you to come in, and instead of trying to struggle going this way, empty yourself. Sunset, water, okay? Come back this way. So it was just taking that vacuum energy, if you will, and having a person, your uke, get to the ground that way, okay? So in terms of kokenage, the same thing is here. As you come in, we're walking in, we're going to turn, and instead of leading, just leading the person around like so, we're also going to be pulling, but not walking backwards. Okay, difference between pulling and walking backwards. Okay, so just try kokenage. Continue with this, but there's something I do want to show you that this is probably sacrilege. Okay, but that's my specialty. Okay? So we normally do a kokenage like so, and down and up, and it's all wonderful kumbaya. But my concept is that just like Ikkyo is a primary technique, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yankyo are reversals. Okay, that's what they are. Kokenage is the way we do it is also a reversal, in my opinion. And that is that ideally, the kokenage comes in, and this movement down is the throw. That's it. So, and then if the throw doesn't work, he comes back up, then you do the reverse. Okay? Now, that's all well and good. We have a tendency to be nice to people. I don't like nice. Okay? So, early on in my studies, I said to Sensei, I said, can you come in? Come in this way, and I thought I saw him do it. Maybe I don't know what I did, I don't remember. But here, I would come in on this side, boom, smack on the back of the head, right? Boom. We could also come in, boom, come in, boom, okay? So there are a number of things that we can do. But if we're doing kokenage and we want to be sort of nice, what happens back here? We normally will take the head, we do a number of different things. Here, come in, take the head, off balance, and we turn. Or we come in and we just come in this way and just be nice that way. Well, I don't like it so nice.
Do you have any last wishes, Joe?
So in here, what I like to do is I like to move from my center. And moving from the center, elbow first, and I will say this over and over again, elbow basically first, and it's elbow leading, but the leading from the center as well. Same thing for kokenage. You come in here, and instead of holding the neck and being nice, come in with the elbow in the center of the back. I don't know if you can see it all there. Elbow in the center of the back, and then institute a wave function. Here, down, boom. So in here, that feeling of that wave happening at the same time that this is happening, so you have the positive and negative, if you will. So this actually could be positive, coming in this way, and this is negative, pulling that way, but it's not pulling, and this is not pushing. Okay? I'm just showing it to you for what it's worth. Okay? Now you can still use all that in conjunction with what we just did. Okay? So I wanted to just add that because I like that information. Okay? Okay, so just work on some more kokenage. So That's it. So it's,
What is Kokinami?
thank you very much.